Henry is probably the best example of somebody, of a player who you just coming onto the pitch. It was like literally just scratching your head, like they was like the Three Stooges coming onto the pitch. I was, because there was no way I just you knew there was no way I could deal with him in the one. I just couldn't allow myself to get into a situation where I was isolated. I hadn't got somebody within 10 yards, 10, 15 yards of me on the pitch. It literally couldn't happen because he was that quick over the ground, that dynamic. He would literally just embarrass. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't body check him. I couldn't, show me number. It didn't matter. Like somebody, had those kind of athletic qualities. So you just got to recognise that, and you have to kind of not just modify your game, but for me it was always about vocal communication, people around you. Look, this is what needs to happen. You need to narrow up. We need to drop off. Mark, you need to screen me there in front, right side of centre half. You need to give me a bit of cover if I go in close with him. So the solution was always in the collective in terms of how you tried to nullify those players. It was for me anyway. Some players are blessed with great individual qualities, well, some defenders. Van Dijk's probably the best example of it in the modern game. I don't think Virgil van Dijk loses too much sleep going onto the pitch most Saturday afternoons, or certainly prior to his injury, in terms of being left 1v1 situation against any forward player in the world. And that's a beautiful place to be in mentally when you understand the qualities which you have. And really there's little or no players out there who have the ability to to get the better of you in those 1v1 situations. That's a real luxury to have. So the majority of players, and certainly I was one of them, didn't have that luxury. So you need to find the answers. You need to find the answers from somewhere, and invariably that's it. Just basically hiding in the shadows a lot of the time. But yeah, just looking for your mates to give you a bit of a dig out. That's what it is, really, isn't it? Fundamentally, what it comes down to at the end of the day, bailing each other out. Just operating as that kind of pack, that kind of siege mentality to try and nullify the threat.
And is it something in training in the week of facing Henry that you're having those conversations with your teammates, or is it just kind of like you need to have that telepathy almost built up over a period of time?
Yeah, but it's just common sense. Someone like him, it's just, what's coming. You know what I mean? You just know what's coming down the track. These kind of players just really don't disappoint you. So yeah, it's not about a tactical master plan at the start of the week and training day to day how you're going to deal with them. But yeah, you would have those conversations with teammates, particularly in the hours leading up to the game, maybe over poached eggs and beans at breakfast. all the defenders would get together. We wouldn't be that hungry, funny enough, on the day of a game against Thierry Henry. Everybody be pushing their food around the plate for about 20 minutes. But yeah, he would, and it'd be just those things, those normal comments. No great tactical master plan. Just like, listen, lads, don't leave me 1v1 with this fella today. Like, and there's plenty of them around. He wasn't the only one.
But they all did.
Sorry?
They all did. Every team in the world had that experience. I'd say every centre-back in the world who faced Thierry Henry around that time had the same experience, because no matter how fast you are, he was still faster.
Yeah, but we got lucky a little bit, Henry, to be honest with you, because he had this kind of, say, a tendency, but it's really how he played. He kind of played, he was kind of a centre-forward, really, lads, wasn't he? But for a lot of the time, he operated in that left wing position, really, didn't he? He had his tendency just to drift that inside left, almost to a left wing position, like to pick the ball up there and then kind of drive in field. And that's pretty common nowadays. People play with front three, right-sided player playing off the left. It was really, a lot of times they're centre-forwards now. They're very comfortable receiving the ball wide and driving on the inside onto their favoured right foot, aren't they? And that's quite typical. That's not unusual now, is it? Oh, a right-sided player playing on the left wing. This is like amazing. But back then, it was a little bit, was like, ooh. But to be honest with you, it suited me down to the ground. To be honest with you, when he used to start drifting over onto right back at the time, was like, oh, happy days. Off you go. But he had that tendency to go and do that, of course, when he picked it up. But then, of course, when he started driving in field and he was coming straight at you like a runaway train, then it was different then. Like, but yeah, they're the challenges that you face, particularly a kind of elite competition. And the lads will have those. Not so much Ronaldo, because he's a different beast now, lads, isn't he? That picture you show there, Lansdowne, he's on the move there, isn't he? He's on the move, he's twisting and turning. He had that acceleration over 10, 15. Yeah, had everything, didn't he, back then, but which he hasn't got now. He hasn't got those different type of player now.
There was a thing during the week about which footballer would you like to have seen win the European Footballer of the Year award, and there was a picture of Lewandowski, because they didn't have it the year France football, the proper one, they didn't have it the year that he was going to win it. And the first answer I saw that made any sense was Thierry Henry, who actually never won it. In a weird way, was Thierry Henry somewhat underrated?
Yeah, no, I don't think he was underrated. I don't think generally he certainly wasn't underrated in terms of players who've obviously played with him and alongside. I don't think he was underrated generally. Certainly the time he was at in the UK, the kind of media over there, it was maybe not a proper love in, because he always had that side of his personality, didn't he? There was always something there, that little bit of arrogance that just rubbed people up, wasn't it? And probably opposition players as well, because he had that little thing about him. And I remember
the collars were up.
Sorry?
The collar was up.
No, it wasn't even so much. Cantona had the collar up, but Cantona is a good comparison actually. I'd say you ask like players, and I'm not talking about players who played with opposition players who played against, say, Cantona, and obviously everybody be a great world class player, but there'd be a huge, like I say, real warmth towards Cantona from opposition players. Like actually, kind of maybe I loved him a little bit too strong, but you know, really regarded him as a player, personality, how he kind of carried himself on the pitch. There was no messing with him really, like, you know what I mean? He had that side to him, had a physical side to him, he could look after himself, all of that, but he kind of played again, a bit of a man's man, that type of player, wasn't he? So he would have had a huge respect on that level as well as his qualities as a player. Henry was always a little bit different. Yeah, you had that little bit of it, and I remember playing him a couple of times, and you couldn't tackle Henry. I've probably said this maybe once before. I mean, you couldn't tackle him. I mean, if you tried to he had the ball into his feet in his centre half, you got tied to him, you tried to make it. I'm not talking about going to the back from now, Jar. I'm talking about maybe just to have a nibble. Just try maybe poke the ball away to prevent him getting turned and run at you. Have a little toe, and you might brush against his ankle or something, make a small bit of contact with him. Suddenly, he was like, you could, you know, he was up, and he was looking, he was staring you down as if, you know, what are you doing? I mean, you've tackled me there, you caught me. You know, what are you doing? This type of thing, like as if you can't tackle me. That he had that about him, and that kind of rubbed. I remember laughing at him a couple of times. Saying, oh, come on, you'd laugh and you'd think, do me, as if you'd no comprehension of what do you mean? What were you tackling? We're not going to lay a glove on you. We're going to let you turn and have things all your own way. But he didn't like it, that kind of aggressive. Now he wasn't like Meek. Don't get me wrong. He was a top class player. For a reason, and at times you kind of couldn't bully him, but he didn't like it. He had that kind of little bit of arrogance about him, which other players, and certainly Cantona, didn't have. So I always felt players were a little bit, begrudging Henry. Yeah, top class, world class player. But
because I'm looking at the list of winners from so he kind of comes to consciousness around '98, right? So he wasn't the best player.
Is this the Ballon D'Or you were talking about, Jared? The
Ballon d'Or, yeah. Zidane wins '98. Rivaldo wins '99. 2000 Luis Figo, 2001 Michael Owen wins it. Ooh. 2002 Ronaldo, 2003 Nedved, and Thierry Henry is second, and he's 60 votes behind Nedved, and that's kind of the end of him being in competition for that, really. So sorry, he finishes third in 2006. Maybe if they win the World Cup, Cannavaro wins it. Maybe if they win the World Cup, he gets more votes. I don't know, but it's just it feels like that's the type of thing that he was the best player in Europe for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, but that's too easy, Jer. You can't just say he was the best player 10 years, so he should have won one of those. You have to look at. I mean, it is is it the calendar year, the Ballon d'Or? I'm never quite sure the criteria.
Pretty sure it is.
Michael Owen winning it. Come on.
Yeah, Michael Owen. Well, exactly. Like, now, I'd be the same to you. Or Michael Owen, Thierry Henry. Who's the best player there?
Who are you picking? Get your life.
If you're asking me who's the best, if you're asking me who's the superior player, I pick Henry. But if you're asking me that particular car, what was Michael Owen doing that particular? Obviously, he was in terms of goals.
He scored the winners. He scored the goal in the cup final, and there was some weird.
The FA Cup final.
I wouldn't factor that in too much.
Oh, that's it. That was a famous goal. It was like Houllier, and he obviously scores the hat trick in. Is it in Wembley or is it in Germany against Germany? They win 5-1, and Heskey scores.
Oh, was that a friendly game? Was that a competitive game? Was it a friendly game?
No, it was the day we beat Holland. We all forget this in Ireland. He scores a hat-trick against Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I take your point. It's not an argument, is it? You know, who would you have?
No, it's weird.
I think it's time in a lot of these things. I think it's just and other things as well. I think a lot of things are factored in. I'm not quite a big believer in. Oh well, they won the European Championships that year. Like you hear it now with kind of Jorginho. He's got to be favourite he's won the Euros with Italy and he's won the Champions League with Chelsea, and I'm like, well, yeah, I understand his club and his country won those tournaments, but how did he play in the final?
Yeah.
How about is that not more significant? How he actually played in the final? The fact he got dragged after, he obviously didn't get dragged. I'm exaggerating here, but the fact he got dragged after 60 minutes, that's not a factor. Just to say him won, I mean, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. You just have to look at it in terms of high level performance during the course of that year. And yeah, obviously in the big games come around, and if they perform in those big games, yes, it's a factor. So all of those things. But you're right, it does sound a bit of an anomaly that maybe that's a part of it why Henry never got. He rubbed everybody up.
Well,
the thing is, rubbed everybody up the wrong way.